Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your dude, the Shredder here. I'm here to talk about the oof moment, the oof of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's kind of who got the short end of the stick in eternity code. Doesn't really make sense why. Hope you all are doing great, by the way. If you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for me, please. So when I talk about the oof moment, I talk about what I think about is not, strikers winning the LCS, COVID, nothing like that. I think it's kind of I look at it from 2019's perspective, or 2020's perspective, excuse me, that, like, what is this oof moment? Like, who got this real, like, you kind of look at it and you're kind of confused when you think about it. I always bring up that confused point. And when you're thinking about this, it's really confusing, right? So when you look at Eternity Code and you look at the set list and like what it is and how it was made, you're kind of confused, right? I think you all kind of know what I'm gonna go with it here. So I'm gonna look at some past cards that were in these May sets, and the May sets are always really big. You go back to Maximum Crisis, it's really good with the introduction to Ash. We're now finishing the lore, which with the Draco cards finally coming, and it was known that you had also meta-defining cards in the set, such as Masterpiece, the Draco cards, and Ash. Ash is really important because Ash, I heard on release, was like $100 and stuff, and it was really high and people really didn't, and that's really like meta defined. That's also very generic. When you look at these sets, they bring generic and they bring other deck strategies to a more boosted and level. With that, in 2018 you had Flames of Destruction. We had hand traps such as Call By. Call By is not really a hand trap, but it changed. It changed your view on hand traps, because hand traps were in the end, now you could call by them. But then they bring out Infinite Impermanence, which is really good. Flame also brought generic support in another sense of the Nightmares, and the Nightmares are really good. We got Mermaid, which was banned for being, basically you could use Mermaid to go into the Orcus combo. And you had Goblin, which I think that one got banned when Gumblar came out for ripping. So they're really good. Sometimes they're too OP for their own good. And the Nightmares they're like this generic support, but they also help their own strategy in their own, like, in the lore of it, if you want to look at it, like the Mech Knights and Crusadia and Orcus cards all on their own. And then in Dane, we finally got more generic support with Cyanide Mining, just helping other decks do really good. And then you have Dingrisu come, and like Orcus was already like good, or it was playable at this point. It's like it is now. It was playable. It wasn't as good as what it was what it was. This is when it was starting to peak, and it peaked from like its release to like, I want to say, the end of the Eternal format, right? Because that's when Harp got banned. And with that, you gotta look at this now. So when we look at Echoed, we look at this kind of versus, and I want to put this idea out there that Orcus players really got the short end of the stick next to Salad players, because Salad was always cheap if you really think about it. Like, Salad always had that wasn't supposed to happen. Salad always had there we go. Salad always had cheap cards. It was in a structure deck and stuff like that, so they never really had a problem picking up the Salad cards. They were cheap. And Parallel Exceeds is a good point that I kind of think is the oomph. Like, this is where Orcus players got screwed, because you need 3 of both. You need 3 Grisu, you need 3 Parallel Exceeds. these both should have been, in my opinion, the same rarity, but it's, hey, yeah, I guess it is what it is, right? And now, because of that being said, you look at Gritsu. Gritsu doesn't make on its own Orcus good. Harp does. Harp makes there's this weird way that the Orcus cards all link or chain together very well. Because if you think about it, before Nightmare came, Orcus wasn't, it was playable, but it wasn't doing anything. And it really didn't start doing anything till Dean came. And that brings me to my next point, which is what Orcus lost. And Orcus lost in Harp, it lost a consistency piece. Where Salad lost Stalio, and I'm now going back to the January ban list, that Orcus lost a consistency piece. And when you take this consistency piece in, it takes the deck from this weird tier 1 that it was. Because Orcus at the time was it could use the Dangers, it could use the Scry Striker engine and you could use either of these as extenders. And they lost those because obviously Engage got banned. All the good Dangers got hit to 1. They're not really playable anymore. Nessie had gotten off the list. So this is where that oof moment comes to come from, because we knew at the time Gritsu was coming. And Gritsu was really good. Players were really excited for Gritsu. And that kind of doesn't make sense because you could also say this for Archosaur and Dinosaurs. Well, this is what people's rebuttal could be like. Well, they have Archosaurs and Dino, but Dinos are at full power. They've gained power at this point, and they haven't lost anything. Where Orcus isn't at full power because they don't have Harp. That's a consistency piece you have lost. And I say that the price point matters here, especially for players, and I think that's going to matter when we actually start to go back to not playing online. Salad lost an extender, and they lost an extender but gained one, so they're kind of in this weird, they could always move up the list. When you talk about it, you could say Orcus right now is Rogue, and you could always say Orcus is Rogue, because without Harp, it's hard to play the deck because the deck functions in itself it has become a glass cannon. As much as you want to sell the hype and all you want, Orcus has lost so much, and that is the issues that have come with it, is the price. And if I was to choose a deck, right, if I was going to an event, would I rather play Salad, which is you could arguably say Salad or Orcus? Well, let's say I have $200 or whatever. Salad is technically cheaper. Salad is minings, access code talker, everything. Those are the only things. The deck itself is fairly cheap, where Orcus is not. You got Orchestrated Return, that's 20. You got Gritsu, that's another. You can say they're now pre-selling at $60, $60, $70. So there's that. And players do that. Skill, yes, you can say skill matters, but price point matters. Some players may want to play the cheaper deck. And when they go towards the cheaper deck, that's really where you'll see more of them start to play it. And this is a reminder of what happened around last Nats. People were playing Salad because it was the cheapest deck you could play. There's also this other big point. Salad doesn't have a consistency issue because they now have extenders, or they have an extender in a sense, or they have something better that lets them do more. You now are spitting rank 4s out every game. You're going to put a Sunlight War and a rank 4 every game. Orcus, you could say both of these decks do have their choke points. Let's go over Orcus. Orcus is basically if I have a response to your normal summon, you kind of have to pass. And that's where Gritsu is kind of iffy, because it's like, it's not the same. Because it's like, and that's where the glass cannon and inconsistency claims come from. The inconsistency claim comes from the fact that it's normal summon reliant, and any response to anything you do, Nibiru, Ash, Call By, or not Call By, DD Crow, Imperm, Effect Veiler. I think I just named 7 cards. It's a lot of cards. If you have any cards in response to it, they kind of just pass. And that's the problem. Players are gonna think about that. So to sell the hype that, oh, Orcus is this tier whatever one deck again when it Gritsu, it's just not. And that's the problem. Like, you no longer have extenders. You don't have the extenders you have. Like, this huge looming is inconsistency. It's so huge how inconsistent it is. Like, I liked Orcus. I was excited for Gritsu. I really was. I was like, oh, great, we got another year of Orcus, which is kind of crazy because it's kind of weird having 2 years of a deck. Players start to lose their mind. Heck, players start to lose their mind after 2 months of a deck, so I don't understand it. But that's the fact that's being claimed here, you know. What happened? The oof moment. The oof moment is really, Orcus got the short end of the stick. Salad is still cheap. So much generic support. They can do so many things. They can play a bunch of hand traps. Orcus can't even do that. They can't even play a bunch of hand traps. They gotta play so many cards to extend that some of the stuff and this is all to all end on Babel IP pass. Well, like, it's like the price of it doesn't really match the inconsistencies. So that's the oof moment. The oof is Orcus being rogue or becoming rogue, though you knew Orcus was getting a new card, which was kind of weird that Harp got hit. Personally, I would have liked Galatea and Harp to 1. I thought that was fair. Actually, I thought Babel was getting banned. I thought that was fairer. And I thought, or that's my belief. So that's the oof. Orcus getting hit. Harp should have not been hit, or should have hit in a different way. The deck having a high price point and it's mad inconsistencies. So if you like what you heard, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope everybody has a great day.